Postal 2 is a very dark game, yet at its core, it's strangely lighthearted. The developers running with scissors focused on overtly funny elements over the more grotesque and disturbing parts of the game, and strikes that balance between sadistic and comedic gameplay pretty flawlessly, which is what garnered most of the game's popularity. If we don't count the game being banned in 5 countries upon release. Now, what would you think Postal 2 without any of those comedic elements would be like?
You'd assume it'd be closer to Postal 1 in tone, right? I mean, without the comedy of Postal 2, it's just a violent and sadistic shooter, with the only goal being to kill. Well, that's exactly what Resurrection Studios' Postal 2 mod, Eternal Damnation, felt like to me.
Initially released all the way back in 2006, Eternal Damnation is a fully fledged game built inside of the Postal 2 game engine, using the Posted level editor, with a whole new story, original characters, maps, weapons, and a whole slew of things I'll dive into in this video. It's worth noting as well that this mod, alongside the original Week in Paradise mod, were included in the officially released Postal Fudge Pack, which also included the original 2 Postal games.
But with all that out of the way, I think it's finally time to delve into the deranged world of Eternal Damnation.
Disclaimer. This game contains discussion of sexual assault and shows depictions of nudity as well as full-on human entrails and organs. Viewer discretion is advised because holy shit. Even before the game actually starts, you can immediately tell what type of game this is just based on the intro cutscene alone, even though it's obnoxiously long. Like, yeah, dude, we get there's new weapons. You don't have to show off every single one.
Upon starting the game, we're introduced to our main protagonist, who's locked up in solitary confinement at the Happy Hill Mental Institution.
Our main man, who goes by John Murray, was locked up in confinement for protecting his girlfriend from a man who was attempting to rape her in an alleyway, who he ends up killing in quite possibly the funniest way possible. After being inexplicably released from your cell after the guard watching you just gets fucking murdered for no reason, you're given the freedom to explore the facility until finding your clothes in another room.
So right off the bat, there are a few things that need mentioning. For starters, the voice acting in this game is questionable, to say the least.
That's what the fuck I'm talking about.
Damn, what kind of sick motherfucker would do this?
Another thing to note is that this mod is just insanely brutal for no reason. This may have been a skill issue on my part, but even on normal difficulty, I was struggling.
This is a great time to mention that I played this on the fan-made Steam Workshop port of Eternal Damnation, meaning that there's a lot of new custom stuff that wasn't in the original version, like difficulties, for example.
Throughout the mental institution, you run through several linear hallways while beating the shit out of anybody who gets in your way and observing the grotesque and downright uncomfortable visuals that plague the facility. This sets the tone for the game immediately, as pretty much around every corner, some deranged individual or literal hanging corpse will be on full display for you to either scare you or for you to rub one out to if you're really into that kind of thing. Further into the asylum, you'll eventually enter the main prison section, where one major difference between the original and the workshop version is.
Yeah, for some reason, the Steam Workshop version has a much longer prison section than the original version. It could have been because of an update that I'm not aware of, but as far as I'm aware, this is the only major map difference between the two versions.
Yeah, remember when I said that this game is hard? Everyone in the prison, whether they're prison staff or actual inmates, wields guns, which makes traversing especially difficult. Luckily, you're just able to completely cheese it by dropping all the way to the bottom like I did, where a blood bag lays just outside the doors to the torture chambers? Okay.
All of the primary healing items from Postal 2 have been reskinned into something else, meaning that the blood bag is actually the medkit.
Once reaching the back of the torture room, I'm assuming, you have to attack this circuit board of sorts to open a door towards the start of the prison level. Because of this, you have to backtrack all the way to the top of the prison, which, like I mentioned before, everyone is armed. So it's best to absolutely murderize everyone around you to secure as many weapons and ammo as possible. Luckily, there's a plethora of blood bags in the cells, so health shouldn't be too much of an issue. After making it out of the prison and around the corner, a barrage of institution workers flock together in the lobby to stop you from leaving.
I can explain.
This, unfortunately, reintroduces Postal 2 Apocalypse Weekend's kill requirement mechanic. Despite how universally hated this mechanic is, it does make a return in the mod, which I guess does make sense. Apocalypse Weekend was released in 2005, and this mod was released in 2006, so I can kind of see why they went with that decision, but still not a good one.
After slicing and dicing all of the workers, the police break through the door in an attempt to pursue you. Oh my god, pursue you. Good lord. From here, it's pretty much a game of cat and mouse between you and the police until you eventually run through the exit tunnel. The town center area that you run through is pretty desolate, with a dimly lit gray sky overbearing the surrounding area. This is an amazing time to mention how insanely well done most of the environments are in this game. The visuals, whether indoors and outdoors, are genuinely unsettling and nerve-wracking at times, and they were masterfully executed. Upon loading into the next level, John decides to head out towards his girlfriend Lori's apartment to hide out, which leaves you, the player, to play the game and do playering things to play your way over there. Just for context, this is Lori, okay? Cool. Cool. Exploring around the buildings, you can find a bunch of healing items located in various places. These new healing items are the med bag, the Coca-Cola, and the pill capsule, each acting as corresponding health items from the original game. After exploring the downtown a bit, you'll eventually approach Lori's apartments, only for the elevator to be surrounded by SWAT agents. You can already guess where this is going. After clearing all the SWATs and stealing their weapons, John enters the elevator and rises upwards towards Lori's apartment. After the boring, dreadfully long elevator ride up to Lori's floor, John enters her apartment and explains his situation and the need for temporary shelter. Oh. Lori, instead of letting John rest in her apartment, says,
"Why don't you go to the museum where I work? You can hide there. I've got the keys."
Hey babe, I need a place to hide out for a bit. Is it okay if I do it at your apartment? Not at the museum. What the f does Ben Stiller have to do with this?
She also reveals that the holy water of Lazarus currently resides in the museum. Surely that won't be important later. After finishing up talking with the girly girl, you then have to exit the apartment complex, but for whatever reason, the elevator down just doesn't work. After watching some TV,
in other news, there was a record turnout at the Museum for the Holy Water of Lazarus exhibit. The water from the Dead Sea that is said to have been used by Jesus Christ to resurrect Lazarus was found in Berlin. Rumor has it that Adolf Hitler...
The only option to leave is to go down the stairs through each floor individually. After one flight of stairs, you go through the hall, only to be met by a trail of bloody footsteps and a girl crawling on the ground. Upon exploring the floor a bit, you'll find that all of the doors are locked except for one, which holds several armed criminals. This entire level is extremely linear and has you just traveling from point A to point B by crossing gaps in buildings with random planks of wood, barreling down more flights of stairs, and even dropping down through the elevator shaft, all while several enemies reside in each room you have to traverse through.
This section, alongside every other section, is a straight point A to point B level. There are no alternate paths or secret ways you can go to complete these levels any faster, which normally I would complain about, but I feel like in Eternal Damnation's case, it actually benefits it. The world building and level design is actually, for the most part, really good in Eternal Damnation, and I feel like that benefits the story very well.
It's also worth noting that you can just straight up fall to your death in this section, which is really brutal, but also kind of hilarious. Like, bro, I practically lunged out of that window. John finds himself later that night in the emergency room after what unfolded at the apartments, though appearing completely unscathed from that 4th story fall. Can't really say the same about the hospital room itself, though. Good lord, what the f even happened to the TV for this to happen? Are those zombies?
The hospital plays out super similarly to how the prison and the asylum played out, except instead of having asylum workers and prison guards be chasing you, it's actually now doctors and practitioners.
If it wasn't fully obvious by now, there's clearly something wrong with Hassel Ridge, the town where this game takes place. After traversing through the hospital corridors, you'll eventually come to this room, with the exit blocked by some big-ass boxes. Taking a glance out of the windows of the strangely nightmarish hospital, what the f is the layout of this place? Like, genuinely, why the hell is there a mechanical carrier to the other side of the facility?
After exploring the building a little bit more, you eventually find all of your guns from the previous level, as well as a grenade launcher presented to you on a silver platter.
After clearing the boxes and riding the lift across the gap, you arrive at... I actually don't know what to describe this area as. It's like a strange outskirt area of the hospital, surrounded by barn houses of sorts, filled with SWAT agents that have the aim accuracy of a modern-day Chris Kyle. One thing I do want to mention really fast is that the music in this section goes super hard. I love the music in this game so much. Alright, time for me to complain again. This section is so unreasonably brutal for being this early in the game.
Again, I'm on the fan-made Steam Workshop version of this mod, so I'm just gonna blame it on the custom difficulty. Thanks, developers.
After exploring the area and getting gunned down from several different angles, you can find one of the new types of weapons introduced in this mod, that being the power drill, which acts as a melee weapon. After encountering Jesus, you make your way towards the exit of the level, only for it to be gated off. Luckily, there's a police tower with a very conveniently placed lever inside that opens up said gate.
As weird and confusing as this outdoor section of the hospital is, it does actually do a good job of introducing one key mechanic: pressing the E button. In normal Postal 2 gameplay, pressing the E button only ever activated your held inventory item, the one in the middle slot of your HUD. The fact that this mod introduces a brand new way to press a key on your keyboard... What am I doing? I think it's cool.
Upon pressing the lever, the gate to the next section opens and you are fully free to move on towards John's home. Exploring the desolate neighborhood, John discovers that the path to move on is also blocked off by a gate, so he investigates it himself. Upon entering what seems to be a roadside convenience store and gas station, 2 guards inside warn you of burglar invasions in the town and that the gate is closed off until they're dealt with by police. So John just decides to handle them himself. Cut is grinding.
No.
Upon entering the house that opens up after the cutscene, you'll soon realize that it's another required kill objective, unfortunately. Though this time it's not nearly as arduous as the previous ones. You are only required to kill 15 burglars, 7 in the first house and 8 in the second house. But unlike the previous kill objectives, you will most likely have a plethora of weapons and ammo to your disposal, especially if you return to John's house to retrieve his weapon. What the? We'll just ignore that for now. After killing the final burglar in the second house, the radio turns on, blaring a familiar voice.
There's only one place to get all the information you need to know. Channel 3 News at 5, 6, and 10.
Yeah, you remember those zombies from earlier? Turns out that the town of Hasselridge is, for some reason, having a zombie outbreak.
But alas, after this cutscene ends, the gate to the next area opens up, and a horde of zombies and demon dogs are the only things in the way. The next area John explores is the suburbs, which is honestly just a filler area. There's no clear objective for this location except to make it to the exit, which is honestly kind of boring. Along the way though, you can whack a ton of zombies down with an axe, find some memorabilia from a different town, and break into a dining hall of sorts, where an event leading to the next area resides.
Again, completely filler area, but it does do a good job of world building, so I guess I can give it props there.
Upon loading into the next level, John finally meets up with his old church pastor, Father Winston, who stands next to an overflown holy fountain, where he congratulates him on getting Lori to finally come to the church during Mass, which confuses John. Lori hasn't had any faith in a very long time, and John expresses even more confusion as to why that would matter to Father Winston. Winston explains by declaring his fear for the end of all being near, especially due to the sudden outbreak. Eternal Damnation is how he described it. When innocent blood is spilled, the devil will walk the earth, and the battle between good and evil will be fought. Did you guys notice that he dropped the title of the game? After this cutscene, John then walks around the outer area of the museum where he meets up with Lori again. John confronts Lori about holding a water bottle, which seems strange at first.
Yeah, I completely forgot to mention it earlier, so I decided to write it in this part of the script instead of going back to write it in the other part of the script because I'm a great script writer and this is what I do for my hobby. Lori has a very strange obsession with not drinking bottled water, because no point in buying stuff you can get for free. I swear this will come in handy later. Just keep this in mind.
After John taunts Lori about her past Gothic era in like the cringiest, creepiest way possible.
Man, look at you. You look so grown up. It seems like it was only yesterday when we were back in high school, when you were practicing your little witchcraft and dressing all Gothic.
Freaking creepy.
Lori then thankfully urges him to head on towards the museum, which he does immediately. Upon entering the museum, you're immediately shown on full display a zombie ripping a corpse to shreds. You'll then notice that right after this cutscene, you're given another kill objective. This fucking sucks, man. This is just Postal 2 Apocalypse Weekend again, and you already know how I feel about that game.
It's
One positive thing I have to say about this section, though, is that it does introduce a new zombie. This taller, skinless variant, and I won't lie, it definitely startled me at first. It's such a shame that the metal bat is single-handedly the best weapon in this game and made the whole mission a walk in the park. or museum. Even though the bat makes this super easy, it still took me 7 whole minutes to finish this one checklist of zombies. While exploring the museum and bashing in the zombified cranium, I came across the supposed holy water that Lori mentioned in her apartment. But that doesn't really matter right now, because after clocking in all 75 zombies, this door near the entrance of the museum opens, and upon opening the door, you're met with...
What the actual... I'm not the only one who saw that, right?
In the most random turn of events, you're forced to fight the winged skeleton who constantly throws dynamite at you and literally nothing else. Luckily, in the center of the stage, he was strangely generous enough to give you a grenade launcher. So this fight is pretty easy. For whatever reason, defeating the skeleton opens up a manhole cover to the sewers. So after passing by the holy water once again and going down the ladder, John now enters the... Well, I just said it. The sewers are just another linear crawl from point A to point B. This time, instead of trudging through the mental asylum, or a hospital, or a neighborhood, this time you trudge through the catacombs of Paris. Well, hello there, Powdon. Along the way through the surprisingly clean-looking sewers, you'll eventually get to a point where you have to jump into a giant vat of sewer water, which introduces the only time in the entire game, or Postal 2 at all, where you swim. After contracting an undiscovered disease from swimming in the shitty pee-pee water, the level continues in the same claustrophobic linear manner, except this time with crushers! I wonder where I've seen these before. After the final crusher, you fall down 700 million feet and get ambushed by a bunch of armed gentlemen and 2 more Hippowdon. This might be Team Rocket. After leaving the sewers, John encounters...
Is that the Onceler?
Hello. Thank you for calling the Illumination Creative Department. What can we do for you today?
Hi. Yeah, I was thinking that the Lorax could use a sequel.
Anyways, yeah, this mod actually added the pigeons in from the Scrat Apocalypse Weekend segment. And now that's another thing I can use to compare this mod to Apocalypse PP Poop End. After massacring the entirety of Arizona's pigeon population, except for this one fucking bird, John enters the Nulo district, where seemingly hundreds of zombies and pigeons roam, mauling every innocent person in the surrounding area. Upon walking further around the block, a cutscene plays showing another circuit board on the roof and a rabbi? Upon climbing the building, getting lost for 5 minutes, and somehow splitting a zombie in half, glitching it out. What the fuck? Upon climbing up the building, for real this time, and shooting the circuit board, it opens up a random gate across the map. Okay? And after going through the gate, euthanizing this dog, and shooting this circuit board, the gate to the exit opens, okay? It's also worth noting that you can just completely skip the first half of the stage by shooting the roof circuit board from the start. It genuinely saves a shit ton of time, especially in a speedrun setting. Upon going through the gate, a new cutscene begins outside of the museum once again. For some reason, Lori is pissed off at John for leaving her alone, even though that's literally what she asked of him when he arrived at the museum for the first time. She complains that this is exactly what John did to her in high school as well, even though John was forbidden to see her by his father. His dad never told him why he was not allowed to see her, and out of anger, Lori forbids him from seeing her until he gets an explanation from his father.
What?
Yeah, so John leaves to the circus to find his father. Not before the best cutscene in the whole game plays first. Unfortunately, though, right after the best cutscene ever made, John talks to his father about Lori and why he was forbidden from seeing her. According to his father, it's because she was raped by Father Winston when she was younger. Police had found her tied to his bed while he was sitting on top of her, and for some reason, he was released as a free man. This infuriates John, and he now has a new motive set in stone. Kill Father Winston.
Wow. Alright. John's dad is voiced by Mike Jarrett of Running with Scissors.
Are you okay? What's going on?
It's also worth noting that the music playing in this section of the game is by far the best in the whole soundtrack. There's something about this song that sets the mood for the rest of the game perfectly, and I love that. Anyways, the circus is an interesting location, to say the least. Several reskinned Gary Colemans inhabit the area, and aside from them and the overall circus scenery, there's nothing really much to this area. That is until you go into the parking lot, where, upon walking down the beaten dirt path, the cars just fucking explode for no reason.
This mountain path section is one of the lowest points in the game, in my opinion. Sure, it's just the traditional point A to point B, which isn't bad, but it's completely hindered by the unnecessary, unskippable cutscenes that drag out for way too long and just completely bring the pace of the level to a halt.
Especially the cutscene where a military-grade fighter plane dive bombs into the random pile of rocks and blows them up for seemingly no reason, and then just leaves in slow motion. This pointless cutscene lasts for 30 whole seconds with no way to skip it, and it really does just place a brick wall right in the way of the relatively fast-paced levels we've seen already.
It doesn't help that just a little bit farther up the mountain, the military is just chilling there, and if they see you, they will actively gun you down. So I totally didn't die to the military and then forget the save and then get sent all the way back to the beginning of the mountain trail, so I had the deedly all the way back through and then had to sit through the 2 unskippable cutscenes again. No, that didn't happen. That didn't happen to me at all.
Luckily, you can just skip the entirety of the military ambush by climbing up the mountain and sliding down the other side. Upon leaving the circus and mountain, you arrive at the Ghetto. As expected by the name of the location, it's extremely run down and beaten up. There's an influx of zombies here, so it's safe to assume that this section of the town was hit pretty hard. This is probably the shortest section in the whole game, if I'm being honest, because all you really have to do is just find the subway entrance. Or you could do the speedrun route of climbing the fences and jumping around the other side of the building to where the subway is.
God, I'm just hoping Jared Fogle doesn't work at this subway.
Yeah, you know what? Close enough. Yeah, remember the content disclaimer? This demon that looks strikingly similar hijacks the train that John takes upon leaving the Ghetto and leaves 3 minutes before the train enters hell. It's also worth noting that the subway is just completely broken on the Steam version for whatever reason. Like, we're just in the void. This is what it's supposed to look like. I have no clue why it just doesn't work, but whatever, I guess. You're gonna be seeing the void, I guess. Once the 3-minute timer starts ticking, it's a race to the front of the train to pull the lever and stop the train. It's honestly pretty straightforward, except there are unkillable demon dogs and sections of this train that just straight up explode for no reason.
The audio mixing in this section is fucking horrendous, by the way.
I'm gonna play this audio at negative 15 decibels just to show you how absurdly loud this is. But yeah, super straightforward section. After exiting the train, John is left in the abandoned subway station with seemingly every way locked. Upon entering the security office, however, there is a switch on the wall that opens up every door, only for even more zombies to pour out. Screams for help can be heard across the subway station, and after further inspection, 2 survivors are seen stuck holding open a door. Okay, well, 2 corpses are seen not holding open a door. After grabbing the key off the security officer's freshly laid remains, you insert said key into the shutter control box and open the gate to the lower quadrants of the subway station.
This section of the game is really cool, honestly. It's a super lengthy labyrinth, and the visuals give me like Silent Hill vibes. It's honestly really well done. The lower quadrant of the subway leads into the sewers, which, yeah, is cool, but there are some slight setbacks though.
There's a zombie ambush right as you meet 2 survivors in this cave, which at first I just let them deal with the zombies themselves. But for whatever reason, they started gunning down me as well. Right after this section, in the door to the right, there's whatever reason just a saw trap room. I mean, I guess this game did come out in 2006, so I guess it makes sense. Nice crash, man. After turning off the valve for the fans in the room across, navigating through these tight corridors, and finally getting back into the subway once again, John encounters a very familiar face.
Ha, one of those days. That's a bit of an understatement.
Yeah, you think? A zombie then tumbleweeds down the stairs, and we're introduced to 2 redneck characters. Unlike Postal 2, however, these rednecks are surprisingly friendly. Seems like John has some new friends for the rest of his adventure.
Stop right there. Stop. There's one of them. All right. Get him off of me. Shoot him. Please. They're everywhere. Shoot him. Get him off of me. Get him off. Oh, crap. What the f is going on here? Oh.
Well, anyways, after John recovers from that gas leak explosion, he heads up the elevator into the mall.
The mall is probably my favorite section in the whole game. It's a super lengthy labyrinth that has you going up and down and all around through the mall and its storage areas, pressing levers to open up doors to later areas of the mall and to eventually escape through the front door.
Its layout is pretty strange, however. Like, how are there 2 parking garages just in the middle of the mall? I might be stupid, but this doesn't click in my head for whatever reason. Regardless, this level is where the baseball bat comes super handy, because in every single section of the mall, there are many hordes of zombies waiting around every corner. For how long this section is, it's extremely well paced too. My only real gripe with the mall is that my game crashed 3 separate times while playing through it. This could just be traditional Postal 2 jank, but it genuinely was annoying having to replay the same section 4 times and caused me to use my easy save button as a crutch rather than a tool. Anyways, the overall depiction of the rundown mall is by far my favorite visually in the whole game, especially with the amount of differing areas in the mall you actually get to explore to escape. Not to mention that the song that plays in this section is actually a banger. The composer for this game, Neurological, really knew what they were doing. Upon exploring the labyrinth of the mall, the many various storage rooms and stores, the security office, and eventually even more stores, John finally escapes the mall and enters the city center.
This section just sucks, just flat out. It's so bad.
It's practically just a straight line walking simulator, as well as being horribly proportioned. Not to mention that the roads here just make no sense. Like what do you mean there's a road that just plows through this warehouse and blocks off half the city?
And this issue with the roads is honestly a constant thing with the whole game. I'm gonna ramble here for a bit, so just bear with me. Why does this street in particular just have a 90-degree curve to the right, directly into a building, mind you, which is blocking off half of the town? Am I having a stroke? Were the construction workers of Hassel Ridge smoking crack when they paved these roads? Okay, yeah, no, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, that does actually check out.
Aside from the horrible layout, this level is by far the worst in the whole game, solely because it's just boring and honestly kind of an eyesore. Like I said before, it's just a walking simulator. Literally just walk to your car, which somehow got here.
Thankfully, after this level ends, we're greeted with the best cutscene in the game once again, as John just plows through a ton of zombies and cars until eventually arriving at the canyon.
The canyon is a pretty short level that showcases a really funny interaction that is only ever showcased in one level prior. The pigeons and the zombies just going at it. You can just breeze on past by all the previously aggressive enemies since they're preoccupied.
Later into the level, you're introduced to the okay, I would have expected like a cutscene for a boss, or, yeah, military zombie.
This is a fucking bullet sponge that is really annoying to deal with, to be completely honest. In my speedruns of Eternal Damnation, I found a really consistent way to deal with them, but in my first playthrough, I died multiple times trying to figure out the best course of action. It's also really funny that the devs expected you to use explosives, because farther into the level, there are 3 infinitely respawning dynamite sticks, which, for whatever reason, can overflow and cause shit like this to happen. Regardless, once defeating the military zombie, which never moves from this spot, mind you, the gate at the end of the level opens, and upon walking through, John enters the cemetery outside of the church.
The cemetery is unfortunately one of the most boring sections in the game. It is completely point A to point B, and there are literally no places to explore. But if you think about it from a story perspective, it kind of makes sense.
In earlier points of the game, there wasn't necessarily a clear objective in John's mind. It was simply just going where he was told and shit would happen. But now, his objective has been clear since the circus.
Revenge has completely blinded John, which would explain why the last few levels have had pretty much nothing going for them, because John only has his sights set on one thing: to kill Father Winston. I don't think it was intentional, per se, but I do think it makes sense in the context of the story.
Doesn't explain the damn skeletons, though. Once looping around the strangely high walls of the cemetery and approaching the entrance of the building of prayer and ritual, John steps foot inside and puts a round through Father Winston. In an insane turn of events, however, in his final dying breaths, he explains how he is an innocent man. Father Winston was framed. The judge found them not guilty after no traces of rape were found on Lori in any way, and the only reason that John's father still claimed that he was a pedophile is because the media never reports the positive outcomes, which is strangely real and accurate today. John interrogates further, however, questioning why he was on top of her while she was tied up in his bed. Father Winston performed an exorcism on her. She summoned a demon into herself when she was a teen, and Father Winston was attempting to remove the demon from within her before she died. But because the police showed up and arrested him, the exorcism was never finished. In a moment of thought, the puzzle pieces began to align in John's head. The bottled water Lori held despite never drinking bottled water, the overflowed and spilled holy water in the church, the original holy water being in the same museum that Lori worked at, everyone becoming sick and turning into zombie-like creatures. It's eternal damnation. When innocent blood is spilled, the devil will walk the earth, and the battle between good and evil will be fought. and John just spilled innocent blood.
Hey, nothing funny's happened for the last 30 seconds. Do you want to go kill 30 more zombies?
After the still possessed Lori disappears to the back room, you have to dome in 30 more zombie heads. Yeah, even in the most pivotal moment of the whole game, they still found a way to drag it on even longer. Thankfully, the zombie spawns are pretty generous, so after making your rounds around the church Rick Grimes mode, Lori finally reveals herself again. For whatever reason, whenever Lori revealed herself originally, I assumed it was a boss fight, so I ended up getting slammed by her, making me kill the 30 zombies over again. But turns out you were actually just supposed to go to this back room, where the real Lori stands. She boasts about her supposed victory, how all of the water in the town of Hasselridge has been tainted, and now everyone who has drank it serves her.
She then summons her nude, chainsaw-wielding minions to come after you, and oh my god. Another kill objective, but thankfully it's only 8 this time. It's not that bad.
So after beating them all to death with bats and entering the sacrificial tomb, a pentagram blocking the backmost room at the church opens up, revealing John's father tied to a table. With one swing from Lori's sword, she ends John's father's life. Rest in pieces, Mike Jarrett, you will be missed. As John's father's body lies lifeless on the floor, the devil himself flies into the room. Mr. Murray has been damned for all of eternity, as well as every single person, whether alive or undead, has been damned to hell by John.
It's also worth noting that the devil is British.
Excellent work, my child.
British people are from hell.
The devil, Beelzebub, is the final boss for this mod. He's kind of a bullet sponge, but unlike the dumbass military zombie, this fight actually gives you weapon refills in the back room, as well as literal bombs.
Yeah, I somehow didn't find a bong throughout the entirety of my playthrough, but I'll go over it really quickly. It literally is just a reskin of the health pipe from Postal 2, except instead of giving you 25 health, it gives you 150. I guess it answers the age-old question of whether or not marijuana or crack is healthier for you.
Unfortunately, however, this fight isn't really much to write home about. All the devil does is just run around and fire rounds of grenades at you, which, come on, man, you could have done literally anything else. It's honestly best just to pop a catnip here and set him on fire with the 8-ball grenade, which is another custom weapon. But any weapon outside of explosives will suffice. After unloading every single bullet from every single weapon, the devil has finally been defeated. So when do I go to the Lucky Ganesh and pick up the goat's milk?
Postal 2 Eternal Damnation is definitely an experience, to say the least. While I enjoy the overall atmosphere and visuals of the game, the low points, whether it be the endless slog of zombie killing missions, the levels that drag out for way too long, the levels that don't drag out for long enough, they all weigh down the game significantly for me. It gets especially bad when you consider that an hour and a half of my 4.5-hour playthrough of this game was just the zombie killing missions.
I can't really give this game too much shit, though. Considering it came out in 2006, and it was made by a relatively small team with a really shitty level editor and shitty game engine to begin with, like, huge props to the Resurrection Studios team for actually getting this game out to begin with. But considering that this was one of the first of many Postal 2 mods that come out after, it's honestly really fun. I also can't really dock points for the poor voice acting either, to be honest. Yeah, it was mediocre and really funny at times when it shouldn't have been, but I respect the passion behind this project enough to give it a pass.
And please, just learn how to mix your audio. Ow!
This is also a great time to mention the credits. This was executed very well. The 3D rendered environments with the higher poly models and sick camera movements really add a lot of personality to an area of the game not many people would even think about at all. The credits finish off with John looking into the eternal void surrounding him, and then it slowly fades to black, marking the end of this eternally damning adventure. Not before one last scene with John, however, in his bedroom.
Lori, I can't live without you. I said I would never leave you, and I'm never going to leave you. I'll never leave you again, Lori. Never.
I also had this set at negative 15 decibels, by the way. I swear this game tried to give me, like, tinnitus or something, bro.